But I do want to say welcome to everyone, and this is Playing Full Out. I'm your host, Augie and this is where we explore success, fulfillment, and the power of purpose. Each episode is dedicated to meeting and learning from people who not only make money, but make a difference. Whether it's lifting others, providing access to services, or whatever their passion happens to be, we're believers in the concept of enlightened wealth, success that serves others. I've got three primary mantras. 1, play full out. 2, the T principle, which talks about taking effective action in everything that we do. And then finally, service and gratitude are not just a platitude. Now, on these podcasts, you're going to be meeting amazing people from all walks of life and all over the world. Today's special guest is Tim Davis, and I'm really happy to have Tim with us. Tim's been a longtime friend, and he's a real estate professional, an investor. He operates 2 brokerage offices, property management company, all in the Central Florida area. He lives in the town of Lakeland, Florida. He and his wife, Sandy, are empty nesters with 4 grown children, 12 grandkids, which he looks way too young to have, and 2 dogs. Tim, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Augie. Glad to be here.
Well, that's great. And I was so happy when you accepted our invitation. And so what we're going to talk about today a little bit is success, mindset, and really how to have a fulfilling life, because that's what Playing Full Out is all about. What does the word success conjure up in your mind?
Success in my mind gives me one of those feelings of being able to accomplish what you set out to accomplish. And so it's kind of like goal setting. Mm-hmm. When you're successful, you actually fulfill the goal that you set out to accomplish.
Okay, so it's really more about achievement, not just saying you're going to do something, but actually saying it and then actually doing it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what might you think is the biggest factor that's helped you to be successful?
Taking action. Taking action has been one of the main things. Whenever I learn how to do something, a new tactic or a new some kind of new formula of how to do a project, taking that first step and just doing it has been the thing that I think has given me the most successful things that I've been able to accomplish.
Okay, so results come from action. And you're a pretty bold action taker. I've got to say that. From the time we first met, we met at a seminar, and within 2 weeks, what you learned at that seminar, you already put to work and did a deal.
Yeah.
And what do you think it is that makes you take that kind of leap of faith when so many people struggle?
I think it has to do with the mindset, just having it in your mind that you understand by taking this action, you should get the results that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so, that mindset of not hesitating or not procrastinating, but going ahead and doing what it is that needs to be done is something that I think a lot of people struggle with that. But that's one thing I haven't struggled with most of my life.
That's true. I know you started investing at a pretty young age.
I did.
How has your faith helped kind of lead you down the path of success, or maybe help you avoid crumbling when you face challenges?
Faith has always played a big part in my life. My dad is a retired Assembly of God minister, and so I was raised as a preacher's kid, and I actually had a lot of training in Bible and the things that those type things, and I know that understanding that there is a higher power
Mm-hmm.
that that I can go to for help has always been part of the things that make me move forward. So it's always been played a big part in my life.
Okay. What would you say are your success habits? Do you have any particular habits that you kind of credit
Abs-
your success to?
Absolutely, yes. So success habits: um, I get up early, I go
Mm-hmm.
to bed late. I have very specific activities that I do every morning. I have a morning routine and I have an evening routine, and those are two things that I believe help me um, be successful because I do those things every day.
Okay, so routines or habits. Can you share a little more about either the morning or the evening routine, what those might look like?
Certainly, certainly, yeah. So morning routine, I get up about 4:45 every morning, and from the time of that I get up at that time until 5:30, I spend that time in prayer, meditation, and yoga stretching. Actually, it's something that I've been doing for quite a long time. The yoga exercises help me stretch my muscles and get me limbered up, and the prayer meditation is just helps me start the whole day. And after that, I get a cup of coffee and I just do a little journaling in a Google Doc, and then from there I go do about 15 minutes worth of calisthenic exercises, just to get my blood flowing. And right after that, usually my wife gets up about that time, and then we have a little morning discussion and just talk about our day and what's going on, and then I'll go in and get ready with my normal showering and getting all that stuff done. So usually head out to the office right around 8 o'clock, and I've had a good 3.5 hours prior to leaving for the office to prepare for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds like you get more done before breakfast than most people get done before lunch.
that's true, but that's a routine that I've had for years, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of being successful is having those routines. And at the end of the day, I have a similar routine of just winding down, doing some reading, um, just kind of reviewing the day, seeing what happened, see what went right, what went wrong. And so those two habits, that I call them bookends. I think I read that in a book from David or Darren Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called The Compound Effect, and he talked about bookending his days, and that's something that I've been doing that for probably a good 3 or 4 years, and it's really helped out a lot.
Well, good. I like that idea of bookending your day.
Hmm.
Now, you've been around the block a few times in the world of business. What mistakes have you made along the way?
Wow, a lot of mistakes. I've had several businesses that have failed, miserably failed. Um, I've had a bankruptcy, both business and personal bankruptcy. I learned about not over leveraging yourself. That was the big thing in 2008 when we went through a downturn. I was over leveraged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that caused me to have to go through bankruptcy and start all over again. So I've had some great successes and I've had some huge failures. And the one thing that I did learn is it doesn't matter if you fail or if you get negative feedback, I should say, because
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a feedback thing. As long as you get up and move forward, um, and you gotta just go for what you know how to do
Mm-hmm.
and do it again. So that's what I would suggest. If anybody has a failure, that learn from it, get up and go on to the next thing.
Yeah, I like the term corrective feedback,
Yeah,
negative feedback. But you're right, it's not failure, it's feedback. You learn from the experience. Well, some people learn from the experience. They tend to be the more successful folks, and those that remain less successful tend to not learn from the experience.
that's right.
And I've said it many times. I'm happy when my clients make mistakes as long as they don't repeat them. Make a new mistake every day. You're going to learn. You're going to grow.
Absolutely.
That's not as good a teacher as failure sometimes. What's the hardest decision you've ever had to make, and what was your process for making it?
The hardest decision that I've ever had to make. I guess when I decided to file the bank for bankruptcy, it was one of the hardest decisions that I ever had to make. That process, we were over leveraged in several different areas. The bank had called our line of credit. We were experiencing a downturn in our actual business, and I just was not wanting to do that, and I had to pray about it a lot. I thought about it a lot. I really had a hard time with it because it was something that I was always taught you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a hard decision to make. And when I talked to the bankruptcy attorney, he was a very wise man. He'd been doing that for many, many years. Probably one of the best ones in Central Florida. And this is what he told me. He said, "You're a smart guy. You have been very successful in business. You will be successful again in business." He said, "You need a fresh start." He said, "This is probably the best thing that you can do to get that fresh start." And so after that, and after praying about it a lot and really thinking about it, and I did some interesting things through the bankruptcy that most people didn't understand, but I actually paid all the debts that I had to individuals, to people that had worked with me as far as vendors. And the only people that didn't get paid was the bank that called the line of credit and the note. And they didn't get paid, but they did take back their real estate. And when I told the judge that at the bankruptcy hearing, he said, "Wow, I've never heard anybody do that before." And I said, "Well, I did that because I thought it was the right thing to do." And the bank got their real estate back, and they, I'm sure they came out okay. And so, it was a learning experience, but it was a very difficult experience. It was something that I really struggled with for months before we actually pulled the trigger and did it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those situations where some people would crumble, but some recognize a new start lets you begin over. It's a do-over. And, you're honored your obligations to everyone. So that's, I think, considerably less typical than most kinds of bankruptcies, where people just take the relief and the chips fall where they may.
Right.
It's honorable and laudable. You exhibit an amazing sense of calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known you now for quite a few years, and you've always projected that sense of calm. Where does that come from?
I'm not really sure, but I've been told that I have the patience of Job, and that's been told to me more times by
Job on steroids.
more people have told me that than I can probably count on one hand. And I believe that probably comes a lot from my upbringing, being in a house of faith, and just realizing that there is a higher power, that that I don't have to fret. I don't have to worry. I can be calm. I can be relaxed, and so and I tell you what else helps is exercise. I do exercise just about 4 or 5 times a day. I do some real good cardio exercising at a little gym in my neighborhood, and that helps you relax. It really does.
Okay, burns out the stress and anxiety, huh?
Yeah.
Good stuff. What would you say is your greatest learning to date?
My
There's one thing
greatest
you learned that kind of eclipses everything else. What might that be?
my greatest learning, I think that one of the greatest things that I have learned is that relationships are the most important thing when it comes to doing business. Listening to people and really understanding them and building that rapport with them is probably the biggest thing. And I've learned that that is a skill that you really need to develop, and you need to have it. It needs to be a sincere skill. It can't be something that's just fake, but you have to be real about it. But that's the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is relationships are the most important thing in everything in life and business.
Okay, well, relationships are definitely key. We can't succeed in a vacuum.
That's right.
There's nothing else in a vacuum, so we need folks. Do you have a role model?
I've had several role models throughout my life. I've had a lot of mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so some of them have been people from history that I've read about. I've read biographies. One of my role models was Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate.
Mm-hmm.
Very fascinating. I read his autobiography or his biography, and that intrigued me. Um, uh, Another one was J.D. Rockefeller. And those guys that have been super successful, and some of the things that they did, the charitable things that they did with their wealth, that has lasted for generations. Those types things have stuck out to me. That people that are super successful typically also give back a lot, and they recognize the old adage from the Bible. God said, God, whoever God gives a lot to, He requires a lot from.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are some of my role models that from history that I never actually met, but I've got others that I've spent time with that I really think a lot about. You are one of those role models, Augie, and I always appreciate you, and I look up to you. So,
Well, thank you, Tim. We have a very mutually respectful relationship, and I'm honored by it, and I really appreciate it. If you met somebody who was either young and coming up, or somebody who might be more mature and struggling to figure out what's next, what advice might you provide? What kind of advice would you give somebody just getting started out?
so I think the best advice that I could give anybody would be for them to find a mentor that they can really connect with, and ask a lot of questions, and listen and learn. There's nothing like having a relationship with a mentor who has more experience than you, who is able to give you the knowledge and the understanding of their many years that they've been doing it. Um, that is the most valuable thing that I could say to someone who is starting out or coming up is find that person that can really connect with you, and I've actually had several over the years, and some of them I would I sent a letter to a guy one time, and I asked for an hour of his time, and I told him, I'll pay you whatever you ask because I really would like to spend an hour of time with you.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman is a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and he was intrigued by my letter. He had his secretary call me because he didn't do email. He was an older gentleman, and he had a secretary call me, and they made an appointment. He didn't charge me anything, and we spoke the first time we met for about 4 hours, and he just poured into my life all kinds of ideas and things that he had done, and and then we met several times after that, and he just gave me a lot of information and a lot of help at the time that I needed it with him. And I've done that several times with several people over the years, and I absorb what they tell me, and I use it. I take action.
Yes, absolutely.
And so those things have really helped me out.
Well, you are certainly an action taker. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you and I first met, it was probably about 10 years ago. And I was just so impressed. We met at a seminar, and within 2 weeks, you used what you learned at the seminar and did your first deal in that particular discipline of investing. And then I met you at another seminar, and 2 weeks later, you put that stuff to use.
Yeah.
So you're an absolute implementer of the first level, or whatever the highest level of implementation is. You are definitely that guy. And that probably ties into some of the advice that you give. I mean, mentorship is an important thing for people. Having self-confidence, having faith. You've talked about a lot of things. Now, if you could start all over again, what might you do differently?
I really don't know that I would do anything differently than what I'm actually doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, some of the mistakes that I made, I think they were necessary to make in order to learn. So I don't think that I could think of anything that would be specifically different. But I'm glad that I've taken the path that I did. I'm glad that life is given me the things that it's given me, and I feel very blessed, and the future looks interesting because Sandy and I are starting to slow down a little bit and do some things a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited about that too.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Now, what is one thing people could do from your perspective that can help them get closer to their goals or closer to success?
I think it's important to have routines. Mm-hmm. Those are very important. Call them habits, call them routines, call them whatever you want to call them. But doing something meaningful every day, and focusing on those things. I think I would suggest that you do those. The things that we've talked about: finding a mentor, taking action. I mean, all of those things. That's what playing full out is all about. That's what that's that placard on your wall there, play full out. That's what it's all about. Taking action, doing those things.
Yes, it certainly is. And that's, people ask me, what does it really mean to play full out? And I tell them it's to be intentional and to show up, to be focused, to be there when you're supposed to be there. And be present. I think that's one of the most important things that all of us can do. We live in a very distracting society.
Yes.
We could be driving a car, reading emails, posting on Facebook, and kill ourselves. Or we can just be focused on the thing that we're supposed to be doing at the moment. And especially in business, where you're building relationships, people know when you're totally focused on them. And people know when you're only half in the room. And I think that's probably one of the most important things when it comes to playing full out. Playing full out doesn't mean doing everything until you're exhausted and ready to drop dead, but it's really a matter of being present in every single moment. If you and I are together doing this interview, I'm totally focused on you. I have nothing else to focus on. Could I focus on other things? Absolutely, and be totally distracted? Easy to do.
Yeah.
But the value in playing full out is to be doing that one thing that you're committed to doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you shared some really great stuff, from setting daily habits, daily intentions, maintaining that calm through situations. You've been up, you've been down, and you've, like the phoenix, risen from the ashes. And I know probably more than most people a lot of what you've been through and what you've achieved. In a decade, you've gone from zero to financial hero. And what I mean by that is you've built businesses, you've served hundreds, if not thousands of people, you're growing your sphere of influence, and you're doing it in a completely ethical and honorable way, which is part of why I have such high respect for you. And I guess the last question I'd like to ask is if you could share your favorite way of giving back, because I know you've got a number of ways that you've done stuff for all sorts of charities and lots of good causes and helping people. But if you had to kind of narrow, throw a dart and hit the bullseye, which one would be catching the dart?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy, there's two of them I'm going to share with you.
Okay.
One of them I really enjoy is the Rotary International Foundation. I've been a Rotarian for many, many years, and that foundation is one of the ones that I look at as being the most transparent foundation. And they have, I think it's 96% or 95% of all the funds that go in there go towards helping people. Mm-hmm. Have very little administrative costs. And so I really enjoyed giving to the Rotary Foundation. I do a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And then I like looking at local charities that are doing things in my community. Mm-hmm. And so there's a couple of different ones that I've given to. One of them in particular is it's an organization that helps with elderly people, and it helps to feed them. A lot of people that are older have not planned well, and they end up with not the amount of resources that they need to actually eat every day. Mm-hmm. And so this particular organization is helpful. We've helped them get some vehicles, vans, and go out into the community, and they deliver food, and help people get to their doctor's appointments and different stuff like that. So local charities, and then the Rotary Foundation, and then also, and I don't know if you've mentioned anything in your podcast before about the Wheelchair Foundation, but that is something that's amazing too. And I enjoy every time we do a deal. Mm-hmm. We've been giving one wheelchair.
Yep, that's our real estate challenge.
Yeah, I like doing that.
Locally with Share the Love, and we have people that donate by just going to creatingwealthusa.com/wheelchair, yeah. And it's awesome. It is
Yeah.
really awesome.
So those are just a few ways that I like to give back, and there's some other things that I do that I don't talk a lot about, but those are three that I really think a lot about.
Well, that's great, Tim. You have created a life that I think many people would envy, but rather than envying, I would encourage them to emulate you. You know, you're a man of faith, you're a man of action, you're a man of integrity. And you know and if I recall, you've also been a past president of Rotary. Is that correct?
Yes, I was, yeah, past president of our local chapter, and yeah.
And we're going to be working with Rotarians. We're actually working with them now, planning a wheelchair distribution trip to Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Just another month or so. So we're really excited about that. And so I just want to thank you for all you are and all that you do, Tim. You're an amazing guy.
Well, thanks, Augie.
Your friend. And I thank you so much for being with us today. I'm playing full out. And everyone watching, you know, Tim, if folks wanted to reach out to you or to help you with a project or whatever, how could they get hold of you?
They could reach me at tdavis@allcountypolk.com is my email address. And or they could give us a call at the office here, 863-510-5965. And I'm always available. I do answer the phone.
Yes, you do.
I'll call back. I may not answer the phone right away, but I will call you back. So
that's for sure. And you know, if anybody has properties, rental properties in Central Florida, All County is an excellent, excellent property management company. And Tim's been managing for a number of years. He's built a great portfolio of his own, as well as helping other investors do better managing their properties. So, Tim Davis, thank you so much for being with us today. And everyone else, keep playing full out. We'll see you again soon. Thanks.